You know, is it too early to start talking Heisman, or should we put it off for a couple more weeks?
Oh no, it is absolutely not too early to talk about the Heisman. In fact, I think this is the time, given the expanded playoffs, we've seen that these regular season games, at the end of the season, mean more than ever. And right now, a lot of these teams are fighting for playoff spots, and we always talk about this Heisman moment. And right now is where these guys can come out, have a good showing, make a Heisman moment. And we saw that with Fernando
Well,
Mendoza
hold
last
on
week.
just a second. You're going too fast. You know, let's talk about the contenders before you start talking about Heisman moments. You're going too fast, if you don't mind. All right. So, who do you see as your top three, four, or five Heisman contenders?
Yeah, so here's my five. So I've got Fernando Mendoza. I've got Julian Sayin, quarterback at Ohio State, quarterback at Indiana. I've got Marcel Reed, quarterback at Texas A&M. I've got Jeremiah Love, running back at Notre Dame. And this is a guy specifically Dan asked me to shout out. Um, he's definitely the most talented running back I think in college football this season. But we can see if the running backs can still win this award. And one last guy I want to give a shout out to. And when I saw this stat, I almost couldn't believe it. But Texas Tech has this linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez. He has 7 forced fumbles on the season. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's insane. A lot of guys are lucky to get 3 forced fumbles on a season. And we've got a linebacker at Texas Tech with 7. So I think, man, a defensive player is not going to win it, but I feel like I just need to give him a shout out for putting those incredible defensive stats up.
Well, here's my four. My four would be Jeremiah Love, um, Ty Simpson, um, Fernando Mendoza, and Julian Sayin. So, with that being said, let's go about talking about. I want to give you. You want to talk about the um, Heisman moment. So, go ahead and explain your Heisman moment, and then I'll give you my take on the Heisman moment.
Yeah, sure. So I would say the two front runners right now are probably Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza. One thing about Julian Sayin, Ohio State really hasn't run into a tough game since Texas. So Julian Sayin has been completing 80% of his passes, throwing minimal picks, putting up a bunch of yards consistently, but he hasn't really had the opportunity to have like a fourth quarter game winning drive, just like we saw with Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza actually hasn't had the greatest stats. He's not putting up incredible numbers, but he's the quarterback for the number 2 team in the nation, and he's playing really well. I'm not saying he's not playing really well, but last weekend with that game-winning drive against Penn State, really like starting with him making great throws down the stretch, and culminating in probably one of the most memorable moments of the season with that game-winning touchdown. I would say that's one of those Heisman moments. And the Heisman vote, it's like a fan vote, and I feel like fans definitely appreciate those game-winning clutch time moments.
Okay. So, here's how I'm going to describe. You're talking about the national narrative of the Heisman moment, but when you complete 80% of your passes all year long, when you have five or is it six 300-yard games all year long, and you got 25 touchdowns and four interceptions all year long, you don't need a Heisman moment. Your consistency of play, in my opinion, is what determines who is the best player in college football. Now, with that being said, my five, like I said, would be a little bit different than yours, and I would probably rank them a little bit differently. I'd have say right now, my pick to win the Heisman would be Saying, the quarterback from Ohio State. Um, and but you know what? Him and Mendoza are going to have a chance to determine that potentially on the field during the Big Ten championship if everything rolls out the way it looks like it could roll. So that's pretty good as far as who we got for the early Heisman talk. There's still a lot of football to be played. I mean, you got, like I said, you got three more games, plus the conference championship.